Welcome to the Backyard Bouquet podcast, where stories bloom from local flower fields and home gardens. I'm your host, Jennifer Galizia of the Flowering Farmhouse. I'm a backyard gardener turned flower farmer located in Hood River, Oregon. Join us for heartfelt journeys shared by flower farmers and backyard gardeners. Each episode is like a vibrant garden, cultivating wisdom and joy through flowers. From growing your own backyard garden to supporting your local flower farmer, the Backyard Bouquet is your fertile ground for heartwarming tales and expert cut flower growing advice. All right, flower friends, grab your gardening gloves, garden snips, or your favorite vase because it's time to let your backyard bloom. Hi, flower friends, and welcome back to the Backyard Bouquet podcast. Today, I'm joined once again by Jennifer Joray of Eastern River Farm for part 2 of our conversation. And if you caught the first episode, you know why we needed more time. In our last chat, we took an unexpected but important detour into ticks, Lyme disease, and the natural herbal path that Jennifer's family has taken towards healing. It was personal, eye-opening, and incredibly valuable. But today we're getting back to the blooms. We're diving into the world of flower farming, the growth, the weddings, the lessons, and the beauty that Jennifer and her family cultivate on their 20-acre farm in Maine. From building a business rooted in resilience to watching her daughters fall in love with the land, Jennifer's story is one of slow growth, hard work, and the magic of choosing a life in full bloom. So let's pick off where we left off last time. And Jennifer, welcome back to the show.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. You're just an artist with your words. That was beautiful.
Thank you. Well, thanks for coming back to chat part 2, because I know this is such a busy time of year for all of us. So
Yes.
let's dive into your farm. We talked last time about finding your farm, leaving city life. What inspired you to add cut flowers to your flower farm? Or to your
Oh,
farm, I should say.
yeah. Wow. So I think before we bought the place, we had decided flowers would be it, but it was like a long road. I mean, we looked into so many different things, meat animals, veg. We did hire somebody for 2 years out here in Maine. He's a farm CFO, well known in the area, well known throughout the state. A lot of the people we had talked with about loans said, "Oh, if you get his backing, you're all set." Like, so he seemed like the big dude that we had to really talk to. We worked with him for a couple years, and he made it sound like veg was saturated in Maine. He used those exact words with us. So we thought, all right, well, maybe that's not the best place to jump in. We don't want market push. We want to be pulled into markets and feel like there's so much demand we can't keep up. So that's what kind of erased the veg off the list. And then with meat, we decided the bottleneck was processing, as it is in many states. We wanted local processor. We didn't necessarily want a lot of hassle with selling over state lines. And because we were currently living in Massachusetts before we moved to Maine, we knew that we would want to sell our product to some of our community in Massachusetts. So we just decided that meat might be too challenging at this time in our lives because of the way it was set up in the state of Maine. So I'm glad that we didn't start with meat. And then we just, we got the place after 3 years of searching, and we grew a small flower crop in our basement that we brought up to the farm. And it did so well, even with us not living there that first 2 years. I just did that Hail Mary. I put everything in the ground. My family was in the car. The engine was running. I'm getting yelled at to hurry up because we got to beat traffic back to Massachusetts. And I was straddling, one of 7 rows trying to throw in the last of the celosia or whatever. And we didn't even water it in. I mean, looking back, it was kind of crazy. I just threw it in and we left for the week. But every weekend we would come back. Things were growing and looking great. There was no pest pressure because it was the very first year. I think that's pretty typical. Like, pests haven't seen that you've started growing in your first year. I mean, of course, they're around, but there wasn't like a magnet to any one crop. So everything did well, even a full row of stock. I grew like hundreds and hundreds of stock plants in all colors. And it was the best season we had for stock that first year because there were no flea beetles yet. So I had all these gorgeous flowers. And we cold called some designers in the area and we're like, come on over. We're considering a business. We want your input. Come look at what we've done and tell us what you need, kind of thing. And that seemed like the right fit once we started talking with people. They're like, oh, we need this. We need these things here. Can you do more of this? And so it just rolled from there. And that's how we decided on flowers, kind of. There was a lot of research. It wasn't just on a whim, but like they inspire me. They bring me joy and stress relief. And I see that in other people. So it was kind of a no brainer, you know?
I love that. I love that you explored all of your options and that you sought outside advice. You turned to the experts and you asked the floral designers in the area. You didn't just go in and say, I'm going to start a flower farm and create a demand. You did your research and found that there was a
Yeah.
demand for what you were growing.
Yeah. And I should add, like the financial piece, of course, is huge and it's always bubbling under the surface of any business. And so it wasn't like just like I said, it wasn't on a whim that we decided flowers. We looked at the data and the research. We looked at the pricing. We bought a few supermarket bouquets and took them apart and thought about from the grocery angle specifically, like one step above wholesale, what could we do to make this work? And it became obvious quickly after talking with local farmers in Maine that were not in flowers that we should stay in flowers. We got responses from our meat people like, we would buy regenerative pastured meats and stuff from local farms, and every time they asked, oh, what are you growing, and we said flowers, like unanimously they would go, oh, you're making a good move. Oh, we wish we'd done that. Oh, that's a better choice than, what we're doing, kind of thing. So we surmised by people's reactions too, like, oh, this is the thing to be in. But the price per stem, the price per square foot of growing space is highest with flowers than with any other crop, as far as I know.
Yes, that's as far as I know too.
Yeah, so that's another huge reason we decided to just give it a serious go.
Now, Dave Dowling was on the podcast recently, and he said, you don't make a living growing flowers, you make a living selling flowers. So when we talk about them being profitable, they're only profitable if we're actually selling them. So can you tell us,
Mhm.
where are you selling your flowers? Do you have outlets
Okay.
for them?
Yes, we do. So the first couple years, we tried all types of things, local designers. We had a really nice verbal, I might say, which freaked me out, verbal contract, nothing written, from a big grocery chain. Well, they're probably considered small, but they have over 85 stores now. So to me, that's big.
That is big.
Grocery chain. Yeah, it seems big on the East Coast here. And the floral buyer who'd been in business over 50 years with that company, it's a family owned company. They do not have stockholders. They're one of the last entities in the US like that. Like they own all the places that they're in, all the strip malls that they're a part of. Those other businesses like the cell phone companies, the paper stores, they pay rent to this supermarket, which is rare. That's not the way it works across the country. Like most companies have to answer to a board, they have stockholders. This company has a lot of freedom to pay you what you're worth. And so with a verbal contract, they said to us they wanted 2,000 bouquets a week delivered.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was going into our second season. Like we didn't really know how to grow at scale yet. And so but we started smaller than that at 250 a week, which still seemed huge to a brand new grower. We set up for that. Our cooler turns out wasn't big enough. Our staff wasn't big enough. The amount of flowers we grew weren't enough. So we did pursue from like, if you're looking at price per stem, we pursued from the wholesale. I had called several of the Boston wholesalers because our main one was going out of business the year we were farming. It was up in Bangor, and like Maine designers are still getting their stems from down in Fall River, Mass. So they basically, we went through that chain from like the lowest value up to the weddings. And in our second year, we were doing that grocery account, but we still realized to scale up, we're going to need another cooler. We're going to need to use both of our upper level fields. We're going to need more staff. And I said, this is not meant to be hurtful in any way, but that I didn't want to be a Colombian flower farm because the work felt like I was going to be outside in the full sun the entire day. I was going to be working before the sun up. I was going to be in the barn working when the sun went down. Like, it was volume. It's a volume game at those lower price per stems, wholesale and grocery. So quickly in that second season, I realized, why don't we go the other end and look at the highest value for our blooms? So we work fewer hours, have a higher quality product, and sell for that highest value. So we did try weddings that second season, and we had about 10 booked. And I think about 8 came through, which was good. It's like the COVID thing was happening. So not everybody had their weddings, but we did about 8 out of that 10, and the others just canceled. They, as far as we know, they never rescheduled, at least not with us. Hopefully they got married. And then the following season, we did 45
Wow.
weddings. That was a huge jump. We were mostly doing a la cartes. We did offer some full service. And the following season, which was our fourth year, we did 65 weddings. And after that, that was so much. We scaled back again to more like the 45 zone. And then in the 30-ish zone last year, and then now we're year 7. So we're in again, like, it depends on how much we're potentially going to make for the season, because our numbers drive, like, our profits drive our quantity of weddings. So I think we're actually at like the 40 wedding mark about. And it's going to be another really busy season, because at this point we're also incorporating full service, but most are still a la cartes.
I love that you've
Yeah.
tried multiple avenues to figure out what works for your lifestyle and your business. It's great that you started with the wholesale and you quickly realized that you didn't want to be doing the volume. I mean, that's a tremendous amount of work and takes up a tremendous amount of space. And you're making substantially less when you go that route versus doing a full service wedding. So you're more of a farmer florist these days. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd say from that second season on, it just developed into, we do weddings. I mean, we tried a CSA one year. My husband didn't want to, but I wanted to. It was really nice to learn about the local community. There's such a desire to, like, people stop here all the time. They want to be on the farm. They want the flowers. Like, right before you and I talked today, I delivered a condolence bouquet, because I normally wouldn't do that. But the guy was from New Jersey, and his friend's husband had just passed, and she was literally 5 minutes down the road. So much to my family's chagrin with our workflow, I went and delivered that. I made that quickly and delivered that. Like, the community is important to us, but we decided right away with that first year of CSA, it's not for us. And so yeah, we're definitely, like, from the outside perspective, we are only a wedding farm. We grow everything we style with. We use no harmful chemicals. That's our thing. But, like, behind the scenes, we're trying to develop that other medicinal herb business. We're studying to be herbalists, working with our naturopath, and growing our own food. So there's a lot going on the farm. But the business perspective is just weddings. That's what we do.
So you really niched down and found your specialty of being wedding flowers. You said that you started in year 2 of doing that. Having not had any experience in farming, how did you get into the wedding business? Because it takes a lot of skill and knowledge to put together a wedding bouquet and do full service weddings. How did you learn how to do that?
Well, I taught myself, and I would be lying if I didn't share that I was so scared the first like 2 seasons. I was like, I don't know how to do this. I have to figure out how to make a boutonniere. Oh my God, how do you wrap a boutonniere? Like, but my husband was in the military. He was in the Navy, and so he is fabulous with his fingers and knots. So he does this beautiful, we use 100% silk 1/4 inch ribbon for our boutonnieres, and he does this hidden one where it's tightly wrapped and you don't see any tie, any knot, or anything. He just goes whoosh and does it. He sets his little station, wraps all the boutonnieres, we make them. So I learned by a few YouTube videos, but there really wasn't anything great and nothing that spoke to me. So I took the basics that I found online and I just played with it. I remember it was my third year of weddings. I know people will laugh at this. And I was like, oh my God, there's another way to make a bouquet besides the European spiral. There's a woven thing. So I practiced a lot with my loose hands and trying to like feed in the stems in more of a woven pattern. So where the stems support each other and trying to get them all going in the same direction was tricky at first. But I had to master it that season because I already had so many wedding bouquets that I was making. I mean, hundreds in a season because people had, 12 to 20 bridesmaids. That's a little high, but I think that is what happened that third season. I was trying this woven bouquet. So I was doing the European spiral for the bridesmaids and this beautiful like woven bridal bouquet for the bride. And I guess I still am learning every single wedding. I just try to be fast and make it look as beautiful as I can. I'm always too big. I always make them too big.
I do too.
You learn. I always have things too high. My husband's like, bring that piece down. Take those things out. you know.
I love that your husband's involved with this. Is
Yeah.
he working on the farm full time, or do you both still have your off farm jobs?
Well, okay, this is kind of the secret. I feel like I'm spilling the beans that I don't
Oh,
ever I don't ever share because I know your community is flower growers and flower plant lovers and probably a lot of wedding stylists. Okay, so these are the beans. My youngest, Chloe, was 9 when she started doing all our boutonnieres.
oh,
So I'm not about to tell all the clients that my 9-year-old is making their $39 boutonnieres for their wedding, right?
I love that.
You don't share that, but she was so good. She was better than me. She's like, Mom, that piece is too high, or that piece isn't the right color. You haven't turned this properly. And she would like zhuzh it for me and then give it back to me. And I was like, you make one, you try. So she wasn't doing 100% of them at that age, but a lot. And she loved it. So we're like, okay. It became a hangout in the barn with all of us in the family. And then it became like, well, these are the jobs people are really good at. And so, yes, they're all full time farm. The girls are homeschooled at 16 and almost 13 now. And Scott dumped his job what year did he quit? I think it was the second year of the farm. I was supposed to be a full time farm and he was going to drive back and forth to Massachusetts, but it was so far. I think some evenings were 4-hour trips home.
Oh my gosh.
And then, you wake up and do it again. It's like a 2.5 hour ride on the way there. And then sometimes a 4-hour ride or more on the way home. And he did that from like April to June. And then we swapped. I said, I love teaching music still. I'll be happy to get a job here that's close. I can like seed after work. I can do weddings at my lunch breaks. And I still do that. So I've been doing a crazy amount of work in both places. Like I'm in charge of a lot at school where I still teach music for K to 8, pre-K to 8, but then I do a crazy amount of stuff with like client communications and ordering and farm planning on my prep times at work. I get it all done. It is a lot and I'm sure there'll be a tipping point where I realize I'm more valuable at the farm than I am at school, but I'm in that weird place right now where I'm getting a lot done in both places and it's still at a high level, so I feel fulfilled. I'm useful in both places. We all want to be useful and feel like we're making an impact. But if it becomes a different shift of balance, then I'm willing to be here. But at this point, the three of them are full time. So like a typical styling evening, it looks like this. We're all in the 1840s barn. The 80s music is on.
Love it.
We're all drinking juice or, whatever. Some of us might have a beer now and then. Not so much me. I don't really drink. I should. It's really relaxed and fun. We're singing at the top of our lungs. The girls and I are really silly. We love to sing, make up words to songs. So if the music's not on, we're making up our own songs and we're just like grabbing stems and usually we do our own kind of, we'll work together on centerpieces where one of us will be doing the greens, structural elements, one of us will be doing like some of the big focals, and then another one will be filling in some filler flowers. Then that greens person will switch to the airy accents. Like it's just a really nice flow because we're all family and there's not really any arguing. It's just like, can I have that stem? No, you have that stem. That'll be perfect for your centerpiece. I'll go grab this one. Like it just works. And then we'll be like singing at the top of our lungs and being silly. And Scott's wrapping the bridal bouquet, or he preps. Maybe this will be a question later on, so I won't get into our flow of the workstation, but he preps all the boxes before we style.
Okay.
So he's very busy in his packing station getting everything ready. And that's how it is.
I love it that it's a family affair. And there's so much fun. I mean, I'm smiling listening because you can tell that you guys are loving what you're doing and you're having fun together. Is there any outside help or is it just the four of you running the farm?
So we have a part-time seasonal employee who does a lot of the planting with us now because you got to get plants in fast when the weather turns. So that's where I feel he's super, super useful. And this is his fifth season with us. He just got his college degree in creative writing though, and he might go teach in Germany. He might go do something else next year. So he's kind of given us the heads up. He's not sure
Uh-huh.
what it's going to be like. So I'm excited for him, and we're just going to enjoy this season and see where things go. But he's helpful in the field. He does not like styling. We've tried that years ago. He'll do it if he has to. If we're really pressed for time and we need a little help, he'll strip things. But our workflow is better with just the four of us, we've learned. We're more efficient, so therefore we make more money. We can take more weddings and have a good time with the flow, just the four of us.
Let's talk about that efficiency. Do
Mm.
each of you have your own roles on the farm or how does that work?
Yes, yes. It's been interesting, and that's one of my happiest times when I think about what we've built over the last 7 seasons is just having watched each of us take like the have the connections to different parts of the farm and the things that we love, just watching people kind of find what excites them and the jobs that speak to them the most. So we tried to make a list before we started the business of what each of us would do, and the girls were too young to be included in that list at that point. And looking back at the list, it's almost exactly what we thought. I'm the communicator with any clients. I do the sales piece, which is a surprise to me. I thought that was going to be my husband, but I'm better with the sales. I sell a lot of flowers because I'm passionate and it's easy for me. It still makes me laugh how easily that comes to me because I never thought of myself that way. I'm so like, I don't know, shy about everything else in my life. Like I would never say, "Oh, I'm such a great flute player," but I am, but I don't talk about that. But yet with the flowers, it's so easy to sell them. So that became my role. And I'm also a terrible, terrible planner and organizer, yet that's my role. So I guess my husband tells me all the time, but you put your heart and soul into it, so it comes out great. I have all these Excel files. I track data. I don't feel like I'm good at that piece, but the three of them remind me I drive the success on the farm, and I tell them, you drive the success. You're physically doing the labor, most of it. But they're like, we couldn't do that without you selling the flowers and giving us the field plan. And they remind me I know everything about every flower. I know exactly how they're supposed to come out when they start germinating. And it's like a baby, right? It's a lot like taking care of a baby. I feel like I just connect with how to grow the young plants. And then when they get older, Scott's better at the field care and the big picture. He's really good at big picture. So our roles are like he wants to be the maintenance guy in the long run, but right now he's doing a lot of jobs: greenhouse manager, farm maintenance, organizer extraordinaire. He's building all of the things we need. He just built another beautiful flower processing bench on rolling casters that lock, which has space for mason jars. They're perfectly spaced apart because he knows all the flowers we put in them how much space they need. He's got like a
Amazing.
magnet. It's so beautiful, right? So like he just sneaked a couple days of time here and there and put that together with like a giant trash barrel section and a hole cut out of the top of the wood and the stem chopper nearby, so we can transition from like tulip bouquets and early spring bouquets, which we do for my friends at work. We sell like 30 Mother's Day bouquets and then another 20 at our local store. It's not big volume, but he made that stem chopper and that waste barrel so we can do the odd bouquet without stressing about finding the snips and making them all even. Like those are the things he does. He looks at the big picture and makes all of our lives easier.
I love that.
Yeah, so we do have jobs, and my girls are still young. My oldest, we're hoping she can kind of take over the bridesmaids bouquets, which will speed up wedding prep so fast, so much, while I do the bridal. My youngest loves the boutonnieres, the wrist corsages. She helps me a lot with those. I still do the flower crowns. The three of us girls do the statement pieces and all the centerpieces. And my husband's pretty busy doing all the prep and packing. We have a tape system where we'll do like 3 to 5 weddings on a weekend,
Wow.
which is a lot. So he's the organizer. We have 3 giant whiteboards in the barn. One is for harvest, one's for things going out, and one's like a repetition of our calendar, which we have in another place as well. It sounds like a bit overkill, but it really helps with the flow. So he'll make sure all the boxes are ready. Like while we're doing centerpiece styling, he'll be cleaning out spots in the cooler where the specific client's wedding's going to go, and that's going to be the blue tape. All the boxes get blue tape, a little 1-inch piece of blue tape with the last name on that box, or on that tape. Then like he has another section in the cooler for that second wedding, and that's going to be the yellow tape. So it takes like a couple hours to prep the boxes. We use a standardized system. Do you want me to talk about the system?
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. We decided years ago not to use our like recycled boxes, which we have a whole barn level of recycled boxes. I'm sure that's a fire hazard. We've recently gutted it and taken a lot out, just keeping the ones we really use and need. So we've decided to spend a little money on standardized packing. So we use Uline. They're more expensive, but if you need something, and we are not being paid by Uline to say this, they will deliver like literally the next day.
Isn't
And
it
you're paying.
amazing?
It's so helpful. Yes, yes. So we try to have like one big order a season, so we don't like one big order a year, so we're not paying tons and tons on shipping. But like we've gotten our white harvest buckets from them in various sizes. Sometimes we get our 5-gallon buckets for not just the animals and the milk I buy, but also our larger stems like snaps and delphinium and stuff. Not delphinium. That's a whole other challenge, harvesting delphinium. But like the tall flowers, celosia and stuff, and our boxes. So for our packing system is all standardized. We buy specific Uline sizes that fit with our glassware that we also remain consistent with. We use like a 4-inch cylinder for our full gardens, a 4-inch taper for our lush gardens, a 3-inch cylinder for our petite posies, a 9-inch Dollar Tree cylinder for all bouquets. The stems don't hit the bottom. I don't put anything else in them. They just kind of float gently on the surface, and it's fine because that is an amazing price point. It's $1.
Mhm.
I can't find a less expensive cylinder. There are shorter ones I'd prefer to use, but they're like 2.5 times the price or more per piece. So we go through 200 of those in a season. I'm not going to triple that cost to us.
Right.
So that works great. And then his boxes, we buy craft paper. We no longer use recycled paper and junky stuff because like our brand is built on beauty, right? This was Scott's thing early on. He said, "We're selling beauty. I'm not going to use a recycled box to deliver a bridal bouquet." So all our boxes are brand new, clean. We've got a beautiful farm sticker that goes on them without a UPC code that we don't need for a wedding. We use the UPC code stickers for like the odd store sale. Um, and the craft paper is clean and nice, so he'll just ball it up. He has one blank of each glassware piece on his little packing station. It's got chips in it, but it's not going to fall apart, And he uses that to prep the boxes. So we put I think it's 5 to 6 full gardens. He would know the number. I can't remember at this moment. I think it's 6 full gardens in the box size he uses. So he'll prep the box with 6 holes, and he's used one blank to create those holes. And he tightly balls up the craft paper. So all we have to do is when we finish styling the centerpieces, we just take one at a time and carefully slip them into that hole that he's made with craft paper around it. And we just, one box at a time, somebody will hold the cooler door open and somebody else carefully puts it in the area he's designated. It sounds like a lot, but that flow goes so fast. We can do an entire wedding in just 4 hours. And I'm talking one bridal, 6 to 8 bridesmaids, 10 to 12 boutonnieres, a couple wrist corsages, 2 statement pieces, 360 design. So that's like a $500 piece on our farm. It takes 80 stems or so. A focal arrangement, and maybe a dozen centerpieces. So we could probably do that in 4 hours with the 4 of us.
Wow.
It may be, I've never actually done how much time an entire wedding takes, but we have here. This is my file folder for people that can watch the video. So each tab is a different month of weddings. And then in each tab, there's an invoice that I pull it out of this sheath. The top of it has a blue Post-it, which you can see there. And Scott has done the times for us. So it says delivery circled. This is for August 30th. It says 1 bridal, 7 petite bridesmaids, 1 boot. It lists what we have. And then he puts down the amount of time it's going to take
Oh,
to do
wow.
each one. And I have a styling sheet in one of these file folders that lists all the pieces we make for a la carte and how many minutes each piece takes.
Amazing.
So then we do that for each wedding. So when that 4th wedding request comes in and the other 3 happen to be small to medium weddings, he'll sit down on the couch with those 3 booked weddings, look at the times. We don't do all of them ahead, but that's the moment he'll be like, all right, let me map it out. Okay, you have 14 hours of styling that week. Do you want to take another one? This one's going to be another 6 hours. And I'll be like, yeah, because Chloe can do the boutonnieres during the day and I can come home from school and start the bridal at 6 p.m. and then they'll pick up in the morning. That's the conversation that we have when we're booking multiple weddings. And it works. This is season 7. We've been doing this for 6 seasons. It works
That's
because we know our
amazing.
time. Yeah. Knowing your style times is really great. And we're not 100% accurate with those. Sometimes I'll take a little longer, but it becomes a personal competition for me to make a gorgeous bridal bouquet in less time than I did the previous one.
Can I ask how long it
Yeah.
takes you to make a bridal bouquet?
45 minutes.
Okay. And that's about how many stems?
It really depends on the season. I find springtime is harder for me. Stems are different. A lot of stems are hollow, like narcissus and tulips. Sometimes I break. I really don't appreciate spring bridals. They're so gorgeous, but they're the hardest ones for me to make. So those will take longer. They'll probably be more like an hour. But the end of the season, August through October, I can whip those out with maybe 60 stems in that 45-minute time frame.
Amazing.
And when I get stuck, and there are moments where I get stuck and I'm like, I'm not really happy with this. I don't know. I don't feel like this is exactly what I want it to be. This is the smartest thing. Scott reminds me. He's like, well, throw a rubber band around it and put it in the cooler and move on to something else. And then I'll be like, you're right. Okay, I'm just going to clear my head. And most of the time I'll take it back out later that evening and be like, it's fine. I don't know what I was worrying about. It looks great. And then he'll wrap it.
I love that. That's such a great mindset too, to take a pause walk away
Mm,
and come back and then realize that so often we're so overly critical of our own work. I remember my first bridal bouquet I made it 5 times over and I took a
yeah,
picture each time. And last year I went back and I looked at it, some pictures of it, and I thought, it actually looked just fine the first time I made it, but I overanalyzed it and I questioned myself. And it took 3 hours to get a bouquet
yeah,
together instead of the 45 minutes for the first round.
yeah,
So
yeah. It's not easy. And, we're so critical, but Scott reminds me all the time like the client is not seeing what you see, they're just seeing these beautiful flowers.
totally.
That being said, there have been some horrid pictures that have come back to me, especially in the early days, and I'm like embarrassed, but they were happy.
I think that just goes back to us being overly critical. I mean, the customers, they see beauty. I mean, people go to the supermarket and they see dyed flowers that they think are beautiful. So we're changing their mindset of, we're redefining what beauty is with these locally grown flowers.
Yeah. And there's also that whole movement, I know you know it, where the Pinterest photos, they're like, I don't know what to call them because I don't want to be rude, but they're not my style. It really looks to me like somebody did throw stuff together intentionally to look like way high and way low and this droopy piece of amaranth and then this orchid. And I'm like, that is not what I would want for my wedding. But that's got to be, I don't know, that's a whole other like aesthetic that I am not in tune with. So I would never offer to make a bouquet if that was something that a bride wanted. I'd say that is not my style. I'm not able to do that for you properly. Like, hire somebody who can connect with that style. But I always laugh because I'm like, there are 5 flowers in that thing,
Yes.
you know?
I I love what you just said though about not being afraid to tell brides when the style doesn't match. Like, people are hiring you because you create something specific and everyone has a different style. So I
Yeah.
love that you recognize that your style is a specific kind and you're not trying to please everyone.
Yeah, we get into trouble when we try to please, and I'm such a people pleaser. That's my nemesis for sure. So that's why I delivered that condolence bouquet right before we talked. My
Yes.
husband's like, "This is not supposed to happen. You know that. This is we've talked about this, honey. Stop being a people pleaser." We've had some we've had a couple really bad wedding experiences and both of them were because I tried to please the client. And so I'll spare you all the details, but it was me trying to get this color palette that this bride changed her mind and wanted this specific color palette, but on the invoice, we never changed it. And so my takeaway was, and this is my husband's reminding us as a team, we style what's on the invoice. So if there's no official change in color palette, we will not at the last minute be like, oh, she really said she wanted red. So we're going to do more red. Like, that's where I've gotten into trouble in the past. So we style what's on the invoice, and I'm very careful with the communication to say, we have these set color palettes for our a la carte. If they want something different, it's called a custom color palette request. That is in huge bold writing on the color section of our invoice. There's a star. I charge for that in the notes section. I put like $400 custom color request for these flowers that are not part of our a la carte choices. So, in other podcasts and some recent presentations we've done, I have come out and said, don't do that, but yet I do that, but I charge for it. We charge for it. Sometimes it's 15% if it's a big order, but if it's a small order, and for us that'll be 2,000 to 3,000 range, it would be considered a small wedding. So we will charge $400 to $500 on a $2,000 to $3,000 request, depending on the colors. And what that allows for is if that week of the wedding we don't have enough of that color, we can buy it.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, we don't typically buy stems, but we still charge the way we would need to charge just in case, because that's a smart business move. Like Jenny Love says this in her wedding process course. What if some giant tornado comes through? What if the field gets decimated and you'd like have to buy all your flowers from somewhere?
Yes.
you don't want to leave yourself no room for that financially because you can tank your business. So we try to charge enough per stem that we can buy if we have to.
I love that. That's really sound advice. So
Yeah.
typically you grow every stem for your weddings. You don't have to
Yeah.
bring in any.
No, it's very rare that we buy anything.
So talk to
Yeah.
us about what you're planting then so that you ensure you have enough flowers for these weddings.
Oh, this is so exciting, Jennifer. I just get all like tingly when I think about planning. So I guess I do love planning, I guess. Well, now in season 7, like you've been growing so many years, you have your staple crops, right? So here in Maine, it's a short season. We have to grow overwintered flowers for our June brides. So we start with that planning a year and a half in advance. We seed in July, which is next month, almost. It's
Wow.
crazy, right? Next month, I have to start seeding for my 2026 June brides or planning whatever corms, ranunculus corms. We dig out our own corms. We have our own corms ready right now in my closet, but I have to take them out August 1st, pre sprout them. So we start with our overwinter tunnel and that'll give us some support stems. So that's Iceland poppies. We grow actually small-ish amounts of things, but like the spring favorites, small Iceland poppy, sweet peas, feverfew aurelia, nigella, a nice big 8-foot patch of specialty pansies. They're a pain, but they really give such a beautiful little transition with all their multiple tones. So I use that as a transition flower a lot. We did a little lupin trial this year because Maine's the lupin state. So people ask for it, and I don't have any on the farm. We have like one plant that I started years ago. It's a big purple lupin. I sometimes can park in my neighbor's driveway and walk to this little city owned lot and pick some, but I also don't like to do that because I feel like it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to nature. So I finally decided to just trial it in the overwinter tunnel. So it's a little earlier than the field lupin would come out. And it's beautiful. It was so strong all winter. So that's probably going to add to our rotation. Russell's hybrid. I did just the white this year, but I'm going to add like the candy pink, the bright pink, and the butter yellow for next season.
Oh, nice. What about,
Yeah.
have you tried javelin?
No, what's javelin?
I bought the seeds from Marin at the Farmhouse Flower Farm this year at her seed sale, and
Huh.
it's like this blushy white. It hasn't bloomed yet for me. I just got it planted now that we have irrigation at our farm, and I'm so anxious to see it because it fits right in with my wedding palette colors for the gorge.
Oh, I can't wait to see. Thank
I
you
think
for
I said
that.
it right. Yeah. I'd never seen it anywhere else other than her seed sale.
I'm going to check it out. Yeah. So I think that's like the majority of what we grow, snapdragons in that tunnel. And this year we have campanula. We didn't do any last year. We did it the year before. So it's kind of depending on what we've got for brides. And then another, so that's 1,600 square foot Farmer's Friend tunnel. That's our overwinter tunnel. And then in another 1,600 square foot tunnel, we early spring plant ranunculus, a little bit of anemones for the purples, but mostly ranunculus. We do 100 feet of ranuncs. We've done 300 feet, but that's too much for our needs. So we only need 100 feet for our whole huge wedding season. It works great. We have scoop scabiosa in that tunnel. We have tulips that rotate in and out of that tunnel. And the center this year is 100 feet of lisianthus. It's like 3,000 plants we fit in.
Wow.
Actually, more 3,600 ranuncs in a 100-foot. It's insane how well our daughters, they wanted to plant the Lizzie because they're very good at that. And Scott made this little like bed thing you can pull down the bed that keeps, I don't know what it does, but it has something to do with spacing. And oh my gosh, they put 9 drip lines on a single bed with 10 rows of Lizzie in a single bed, 100 feet. So like it's
Wow.
beautiful. I've never seen it any plantings like this. I've taken a million pictures. I'll have to share a picture with you.
Yes, we can include it in the show notes.
Yes, it's just beautifully done. And that is like the star location for Lizzie in the center of one of our farmers' friends. We kind of rotate where it goes, but it's so easy to tend that we're going to put cattle panel on it like we did last year. So it's nice and straight and sturdy. And it'll just be like tens of thousands of blooms in August. So that's that tunnel. That second tunnel it's a huge amount of high value blooms, right? You've got your ranunculus, you've got the lisianthus. That alone is huge. And it's the tulips for the beginning of the season, and also the scoop scabiosa. So Dave Dowling said you can, in his course, perennials, bulbs, woodies, and more, which I highly recommend. And I loved that. I loved Jenny's wedding process course too. I do highly recommend both of those if you're doing weddings or if you're planting woodies. But in Dave's course, he says you cannot share a tunnel space between tulips and ranuncs because you got to leave your tulip tunnel open so they chill enough to have long enough stems. But somehow we worked out the timing to make it work for us. We have accidentally overwintered ranuncs and anemones the last couple seasons. Like we dug stuff out, but I guess we missed some, and then we get a plant and it's like, oh my gosh, that's a nice surprise. Leave that. So I think we're going to start next season trialing a bed of ranuncs in the overwinter tunnel and cutting back. Yeah, I would love that. And I have extra corms. I had like 4,000 corms this year. We didn't need that many. So we talked with Hank Awnings a couple years ago on a 1 to 1.5 hour like FaceTime group for fall blooming ranunculus. Maybe some of the people listening were on that with me. It was just a handful of growers. And yeah, it was so cool because Hank was saying, there's only one professional grower on the East Coast and he's in Canada. And it's like multi-million dollar operation. And it's the ideal time with light, day length and temperature to get a fall blooming ranunculus crop. So we played around with the ideas, but so we would pre-sprout August 1st, but then they wouldn't bloom before we'd have to add heat. And we couldn't find a market for them the last 2 seasons. We've tried. People are still doing weddings, but in Maine, it seems to be this huge seasonal flush. So of weddings, and then they taper off in October, November, December. So like the end of October, the whole month of November, and then forget December. We rarely get requests, although we still do. And I think that right now we just can't find a market for those fall blooming ranuncs. It might be there. I just haven't found it yet. So I'm not sure how I got on that tangent, but that's how I had like way too many corms left. So I'm gonna use that to my advantage. One of the things Hank talked about was you can't dig out your corms and then dry them and then replant them for a fall bloom in the same season.
Okay, they need a full rest period.
Yes, they need that full year rest. So it's better to plant a second season corm or a 2-year corm if you want fall blooms.
Okay, interesting.
So I have thousands of extra corms that I had planned on trialing and then we decided not to. So I'm going to I use those for this spring and then I'm going to use the remainder from last year for the overwinter tunnel, and I think it's going to be good. So back to planning. That's how we work it. So that one overwinter tunnel is all of our June. That second spring/summer tunnel is all of our ranuncs and lizzies and a few supporting stems. And then our final tunnel is another 1,600 square feet for all our dahlias. This year we did Protect Net. The girls and Scott spent about 2 weeks like building out some side pieces, putting up track. They did just the curtains on the sides. You know what I mean?
No. What do you mean?
You know where you do like a roll up side greenhouse? There's like a
Oh, on the greenhouse.
track.
Yes.
Yeah, there's like a track along the sides.
Yes.
I wanted to protect that around the entire thing. I'm like, screw those tarnished plant bugs and leaf hoppers. But he was like, no, that's so much money. In Protect Net, all we need is the curtains. All we need is the sides and the doors. So he like built this awesome track for our farmer's friend, which previously was one of those push up and like there was like a V-shaped piece of metal that you would just bunch the fabric up and over. So he took that system out. We took off the plastic. He built the track. we decided to replace greenhouse plastic at the same time. So we had a new piece of plastic ready, but he and I and the girls like put the protect net in that track, and then he made a board on the bottom of each side and put a second track on the bottom and put the protect netting wiggle wired in to both tracks. So one on the ground level on a piece of 12-inch board and one on the top where you'd roll up your greenhouse side to. So that eliminated the rope across the top of the tunnel. So it's just a smooth piece of plastic up on top, wiggle wired in, and then the protect netting with plastic over the top of it. And then he added roll up sides. He did a whole bunch of research. He ended up with some big green plastic contraption that he installed himself, and he's really happy with it. So we can roll up the plastic, the protect net stays in that track, and he built out some pretty doors for both front and back of all of our tunnels. And you can open those doors wide. Those have greenhouse plastic on them for heat control. And then there'll be a curtain of protect net, which we have to still add before we plant next week, all our dahlias. I hope it works because that's a huge part of our plan. That's like late July through the rest of the season. So then the other critical points to planting are crops in the field, foxglove and delphinium. I know they're spikes, but we lean so heavily on those colors, that light blue delphinium especially, white. So we have so much. We have 70-foot rows is our standard in the field. So we've got 70 feet of light blue giants, 70 feet of Galahad white giants, 70 feet of a mix of astellat rose for that soft rosy lavender, and then a little bit like maybe 30 feet at the end of that row. So like 40 feet of astellat and 30 feet of Guinevere, like a lavender giant. Then we have 70 feet of belladonna Cliveden beauty light blues. And then awesome, our surprise was our whole belladonna row and our Chinese butterfly delphinium all came back. And it's a huge hedge right now, so I couldn't be happier. So we're going to have two 70-foot rows of mostly light blue
Wow.
belladonnas. there's a good chunk of white in there, maybe 20 feet of white, which is helpful. And then the last like 10 feet is that blushy pink Chinese delphinium. I love that stuff. It's
That's a ton of delphinium.
it's ridiculous, right? And our foxglove, we have to harvest that foxglove every 2 to 3 days, and we have buckets and buckets and buckets. So my concern, and it is every year, we're like foxglove rich. Delphinium sells, every stem goes into weddings. We almost never compost a delphinium stem. But the foxglove, it's tough because like here's one of the planning pieces we struggle with, and I know other farmers can feel this pain who do weddings. If you have a wedding with a huge amount of material and you know you're going to use like 200, 300 foxgloves peach, you have to plant enough for that 1 week. But like all those other weeks, you're not using nearly that amount of foxglove, but you're still harvesting it. You're still cutting and holding it. You're still putting it in the cooler. So we have to find a way to sell bulk amounts of foxglove better. And it always comes down to nobody has the time to make the drive to the wholesaler because we're like, well, we're going to make like $500 off of this. It's worth it to just focus on this wedding booking for next season. That's going to make us 20 grand. So like it's right now it's time. We'll be foxglove rich for sure. So that all those crops I named are like the staple flowers for the whole season. They're big swaths of months that they cover. That takes a huge amount of pressure off of me for styling. I got my big focals. I have my supporting stems. I have that light blue I need. Another huge piece to the planning is just a few perennials that are huge staples. And for us, that's mountain mint, which goes the entire season from May to October. We use it the entire season. We have 300 feet of it.
Wow.
It's a lot, but it's beautiful. The only stage I don't like is when the flowers die and they're brown. I'm like, shaking does not work. So I actually pick off as many of the little flowers as I can. It's just very time consuming. Or for bigger pieces, I don't bother. But if it's a very visible piece on a boot or in a bouquet, I will take the time to pick off those brown flowers. That's the only time in the crop cycle I don't appreciate mountain mint as much, but I still use it. So mountain mint hydrangea is the second giant moneymaker on our farm. Neither of us liked it going into farming. We're like, we don't need hydrangea, but we need it. It's a huge space filler. It's a huge supporting stem for statement pieces. You can use just the blooms for petal pails. You can use little bits to make a little sparkly addition to boutonnieres. Um, I use at least one in all of my fall bridal bouquets. Actually, bridal, I'll probably use three. A bridesmaid's bouquet, I might use one or two. Even a petite, I'll use one. And it just really fills up the whole space quickly. So that's like our second favorite crop on the farm. And then the third one is nine bark.
Love Nine Bark.
God, it's so pretty. We don't have any green, which is a real downfall. I gotta get some green at some point. But we just have Coppertina and Diablo, and they're such giant. It's of giant importance to us in the fall. So that's like a huge backbone of the farm. And then the other backbone crops that are annuals, we do shiso for greens, basil for greens. I know basil is a wilter, but when you let it go to seed, it's totally fine. And I love it that way. So I use a lot of lemon basil and aromato and eucalyptus. So that's about it for greens. We do scented geranium. It doesn't work always with the droopy effect, but we do a lot of that. I do not like Dusty Miller, so we don't tend to do much, just for the bases of wrist corsages. And I decided to grow those in pots in the greenhouse and just overwinter them. So it's made life a lot easier to have easy access to the base for wrist corsages right outside the barn door in the greenhouse in pots. We keep it trimmed. This spring I went through and I pulled out the old flowers and I ripped out some of the side shoots and I potted them up and now they're beautiful new plants already, just a couple months later.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's the way I use Dusty Miller. It's not in a ground anywhere. It's just in pots and it's only what I need. And then like I'd say the last and most important piece for planning is zinnias and the littles. I call them the littles, things like Cresspedia, Nigella, feverfew. I still use straw flower. I use a lot of overwintered yarrow, but I tend to I tend to fill a lot of the color palettes flexibly with zinnias. So it's always an issue on our farm. We talk about how many rows we can handle because they take cutting every 3 days. We do three 70-foot rows, and that's a lot because we care for them properly, along with the foxglove and the delphinium and the dahlias and the greens. But we always come back to three. My husband's like, no, we cut the beep out of them. 3 rows. Don't go down to two, honey. Because I'm always like, I think we can get by with 2 rows. He's like, no, 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 no. They're our most useful filler on the farm from summer to fall. Do three. So I carefully plan out the colors for the weddings. But like if you took out the challenge of color with those crops I mentioned, yeah, it's a lot, but you could do a whole wedding season from June to October here in Maine with those, what did I name, like 12 to 15 crops, 20 crops with the greens included. Um, it's
That's
so
amazing.
much. It's so much material. We do grow other stuff. We grow pincushion. I do specialty sages like the lighthouse purple this year for a dark purple wedding, but like I don't need to grow that stuff, but I do need to grow dahlias. I do need to grow zinnias. I do need to grow at least one filler. So for me, my favorite's feverfew, but I like to double down and just in case, I also have nigella. Um, I'm a very flower forward designer. I don't use a lot of greenery. Maybe in the fall a little bit more. So that gets us by. Yeah, so it's not really hard to plan that stuff, right? It's not hard. Oh, marigold. marigold is good too because it's great out of water. So we do that especially for arbors and stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the majority of our crops. We do a little bit of amaranth. We do a row of celosia. I probably could not get by without celosia, so add that to the list.
I love celosia.
Mm. And gomphrena. I was like ready to kick it to the curb this year, and my husband said, "Are you crazy? We harvest buckets and buckets of gomphrena. You're always asking for that as an accent and in boutonnieres and stuff. So and in everything we make." So he he twisted my arm and made me grow my like 5 to 6 colors of gomphrena again.
Do you
I don't know.
start all of these from seed or do you order in plugs?
We start everything from seed except no, this year I started everything from seed.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really good at delphinium now. That took me a while to get, but I seed it in a tray and I heavily water it in. Like I soak it, I saturate it, and then we stick it in the cooler in the barn in very end of January. And I just leave it in there. And last year I did this and I we forgot about it because we have two coolers and we don't use the big one over the winter. We used to use it for grain storage, but the mice got in there, so we don't use it for anything. We just put like our harvest carts in there and leave it till the season starts up. And I forgot about all these trays. There were like 21 trays of delphinium in
Oh
there.
my gosh.
Yeah, so they all dried out.
Oh no.
It was supposed to be my husband's job, and I think I put it in the calendar, but I didn't remind him, and we didn't talk about it. We were just enjoying our I guess we were enjoying our slow start to the season, and I freaked out. I'm like, "Oh my god, honey, you forgot to check the delphinium. It's all dried out. It's all gonna die. Oh no." And he's like, "No, it's not. It's gonna be fine." I said, "No, you can't let seeds dry out during germination." Like I was in a panic, and he goes, "Trust me. They'll be fine." In his typical calm way, he moved them all to the floor of the greenhouse, watered them for 3 weeks, and they were almost 100% germination.
Wow. Amazing.
So I will never get upset about that again. They
I love
can
that.
dry out. And maybe it was just the right stage where the seed coat hadn't quite cracked yet or something, but it was the most beautiful delphinium crop, and that's what came back this year. The belladonnas did. We ripped out the giants. They came back too. We found chunks of delphinium giants all throughout where they had been planted in the field, even though he tilled. Like he chopped the heck out of those rows, and we found these giant chunks of beautiful green leaves. So I dug as many out as I could, and I was delivering crates to my neighbor who's in love with delphinium. I potted some up, but the majority went to the compost. Don't tell anybody.
You were feeding your soil.
Yes. But next year we will definitely overwinter the giants. Yeah.
I
I,
love
I
it.
know they overwinter. Like, I know they like the cold here, but in the past we've tried and they've rotted out.
Okay.
So 3 seasons we tried that, and 3 seasons we lost the crop. So we had decided we'll use them as annuals only. But this year, I don't know. They all came back.
Interesting. Thank you so much for sharing about the different flowers you grow and your wedding business. I know we're at about an hour right now. Is it okay if I ask you another question?
Oh, Jennifer, go for it. I know you'll chop stuff out. So absolutely.
No, it's all too good. This is all staying in here.
Oh, God.
On your website, it says that you are a regenerative flower farm. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, we
What
are.
does regenerative flower farming mean to you?
For us, regen means we're adding more than we're taking away. We're pasturing our animals and feeding the soil on the farm, not just the crops we take. We are using only organic certified amendments or making our own brews like compost tea, and mycorrhizal fungi is something we focus on a lot. Soil health, but also plant health, because there's a whole other vision of instead of you're thinking just soil health, there are some scholars that focus on plant health, which of course, then feeds the soil and it is a loop. But if you focus on the plant health and you see your plants are thriving, then the soil's probably also thriving. So we think of it more like plant health. And the moment something gets past those, especially those lower down on the rung pests like aphids, the moment that happens, we're looking at what did we do wrong? What is the plant missing nutrient wise? So we do our soil tests and all that too. But the regen part of it for us is mostly the health of the land. Now I know there is a new label above organic called Regenerative Organic Certified, and that's coming.
Interesting.
That you can already get that, and we've seen that with the medicine through some of our suppliers. Regenerative Organic Certified also takes into account the health of the people on the farm, the people who run the farm, the employees who come onto the farm to work. And if to get, I shouldn't really talk about this because I am not well versed in it yet, but I do understand that there's a piece of that certification that involves private conversations with employees. In other words, the landowner or the farm owner's not present when they're getting interviewed, and the questions are focused, I think, on the health of their job, like if their working conditions are truly satisfying their needs. So that's part of the regenerative piece as well. So we think about that. My husband's far better at that than us. He stops work at about 3 o'clock every day, makes sure he's got his dinner plans usually from the morning, but makes sure like he's putting meat in a pot to thaw from the freezer if that's the plan to do like steak on the grill or something. So he stops at 3. He buttons up whatever major project's going on. Of course, there are rare exceptions. Like if we're tilling and we absolutely have to make beds because the weather's right, we're not going to stop till the beds are done. But 99% of our days end at 3 for him. He comes in, gets the dinner plans ready, buttons up the field. If there's dishes out, we'll be cleaning those. If there's stuff we have to tend to inside the house, we'll do that. And then when the rest of us come in much later than him, we have dinner ready, which is, oh my God, right? Like that is huge. And it's a lot of work for him. And he talks about that. He's like, please don't take this for granted. You said food was the most important thing when we bought this farm. His focus is on the health of our family first. He has to remind me of that because I'll be like, can you just do this one more thing out in the field? And he's like, no, because the first thing you asked me for was healthy food. So, like, he is so good at putting the brakes on so that we survive as a family. Without that, I'm like so ADHD. I'd go till 9 at night and not even eat.
Me too.
Yeah. So it's really, really critical, I think, to have like somebody in our lives that'll do that, whether it's us or somebody we're married to, or maybe even an off farm person that calls you every day and like, hey, did you do your yoga? Like whatever it is. And then so in the summertime, we'll go outside and sit. The girls will jump in the pool. I'll sit with him with a cold drink. We'll put our feet up outside, and then we'll come in and we still have chores to do. We'll do the animal chores for the last couple hours of the day. And when the day length is really long, we have to go out the last thing before we go to sleep and close the greenhouse up if it needs that, or do those last few things. But that few hour stretch in the early afternoon is our family time, our food time. Put your feet up, talk. It's easy to keep going, but that's, I guess, the last of the regenerative piece is that we take time for ourselves and for each other to connect about why we're doing this. Because it's pretty crazy.
I love that so much because it's so easy, like you said, to stay out. Last night, our farm is still off site, and it was 6 o'clock, and I looked at the watch and I go, oh no, we have nothing for dinner right now. I got to get back home. Thankfully, I got home and my husband was making dinner. He's like your husband,
Yay!
where he values the health of our feeding our nourishing our bodies. And so thankfully he was there, but it's like it's so easy to get caught up on it, especially when the days are so long. I mean,
Yeah.
it's light till 9 o'clock here. So I thought it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, not 6 o'clock at night, because you just
Yes.
get lost in the moment. So I love that you take the time to end your day with intention and then
Mm.
intentionally spend it with your family doing meaningful activities. That's beautiful.
Yeah, it's important.
Jennifer, we've talked a lot in this episode and the last episode. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that you want to share with our listeners?
Hmm. I could talk forever with you about this stuff. So no, go forth and conquer and do it yourself, right? Enjoy
Yes.
everything you've built. Enjoy it all and Like my husband always says, we only have today. We do. We only have today. There's no promise of tomorrow. There's no promise of anything. We only have today. So it's not so much advice, but just like that's what rings in my ears as we're doing all this running around and stressful work is enjoy it. The balance is hard to achieve, and that's the challenge, I think, but I just try to enjoy the moment I'm in, whether I'm working off the farm and I'm with other people's kids. I'm like, I'll be back on the farm soon. I'm trying to enjoy them for who they are right now, and that has made me so much happier in my life. Yeah.
That, I love that. That's great advice. Just being present in the moment, enjoying
Yeah,
that
because
time.
the farm teaches you that nature's going to do its thing. We've got a plant on the windowsill that's going to make little babies. It's like that life plant, and it's making its little babies on the leaf. Like it's not getting everything it needs. It's not getting enough sun. It's trying to set roots out the sides and it can't reach the soil in some places. But I made the comment last night. I'm like, honey, look at this. This plant knows the cycle, regardless of everything else going on. And if the rest of us humans were outside more and looking at nature and observing those simple things, we would be constantly reminded that no matter what we're doing, that whole cycle is going to repeat itself. There'll be another shot at the growing that crop. There'll be another wedding to try your hand at. Like there's just this bigger cycle, and it's kind of calming to know.
Absolutely. I agree. Well, thank you. This has been such a fun conversation. I know you shared last time, but if you could share again, where can our listeners find you?
Oh, thanks. Our website, Eastern River Farm, has a link to my email, and my email's my name at Eastern River Farm. So Jennifer Joray at Eastern River Farm. And Joray is Joray, like Joe Ray. And I'm very responsive over email, so I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are you also on Instagram?
Yeah, we have an Instagram too. I check it every day. Yes.
And that is also Eastern River Farm. Is that right?
Yep, at Eastern River Farm. Yes.
Perfect. We'll put links to all of that in the show notes. It's been so fun talking to you again. Thanks for carving out 2 different days to chat on the podcast. I wasn't expecting the first one to detour, so it was really fun to learn more about your farm today. And I wish you and your family a lovely season ahead. So thanks so much for joining us today. And I'm sure you'll be back again someday. The door is always open here on the podcast for you.
Oh, it's so nice to chat with you. I'd love to learn more about your farm, and I'm going to start looking you up more as I have been.
Well, thank you. We'll chat soon,
Yeah.
Jennifer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Bye.
Bye bye. Thank you, flower friends, for joining us on another episode of The Backyard Bouquet. I hope you've enjoyed the inspiring stories and valuable gardening insights we've shared today. Whether you're cultivating your own backyard blooms or supporting your local flower farmer, you're contributing to the local flower movement, and we're so happy to have you growing with us. If you'd like to stay connected and continue this blossoming journey with local flowers, don't forget to subscribe to the Backyard Bouquet podcast. I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave us a review of this episode. And finally, please share this episode with your garden friends. Until next time, keep growing, keep blooming, and remember that every bouquet starts right here in the backyard.